Alright, all praise unto Yahweh Shem Yahshai. Double honor to the apostles of GMS. Honor to your brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. It's going to be a quick video regarding the financial economy. Um, you know, um, anytime I see some of these articles, I like to do videos on them. But as always, like I say, I'm not, the best person at this. So if you feel like, there's information that's been missed or information that needs to be corrected, feel free to post on the comment boards. So the statement made in the title is that the worst is worse than the Great Depression. Okay, renowned economist warns of a bleak future for the eurozone. So this is regarding what you know as the so-called EU. Okay, and this comes in the wake of the so-called Brexit referendum. Okay, and that's sort of as they're going to get into within this article. Okay, that also comes with other different countries like Italy's, or I think it's Italy. Okay, other countries that wanted to leave the so-called euro. Okay, and what that is, the effect that has is that you have what they're calling a bleak picture. Okay, and what this particular individual goes into, he goes into the fact that the bureaucrats out there within Brussels, they're insisting that the euro will bounce back. But just like how the men of the Lord have been saying for the longest, okay, that being the prophet, starting first and foremost to the elders of GMS, double honor to the apostles of GMS, okay, and right on down to the least brother within the within any camp, they'll let you know that this economy is gonna fall to nothing, man. Because as I like to go into all the time, the very inception of these currencies is debt. Okay, and you got these different, and I think he's going to quote it a little bit later on within this article. He's going to say these countries in a lot of debt. Okay, and it sounds stupid to somebody that knows how the economy works, because once you know how the economy works, okay, you pretty much know that for you to have currency, your dollars, your euros, and so on and so forth, you have to have debt. Okay, that's a prerequisite to having a currency. And apparently, when you have that currency being distributed within the country, the people that are within the country are supposed to make money, okay, to then pay back off the principal funds with interest. Okay, so let's say a dollar costs you $1, so you got $2 that you're giving to an individual. Okay, but you got to pay back that $2. It's rather more, you got $1 that you're going to give up to an individual, but you can pay $2 back. And how do they do that? Well, they borrow more debt. Okay, now you might have foreign investment where if you got China coming in, but when you have a foreign investor, well, where is that finance coming from? Okay, right? And what you have is these countries, they basically print money out of thin air. Okay, or negative equity. Okay, negative from a negative stance. They deal with debt. Okay, all right. That's why you have it to where all of these countries, they say, oh, we've got a debt ceiling, we've got a debt point, and they just raise the debt ceiling because why? Because the economies that you have out there within this society, they can't function without the debt, right? Without the negative value of money. Okay. So with that being said, let me get into this article right quick. It says the top economist has painted a bleak picture of the eurozone despite the deluded Brussels bureaucrats insisting that it will bounce back. And that's what you have out there, and that's a necessary element, because for you to have an elect, okay, and the truth, you're gonna have to have an entity that's going to push forth out what we know as darkness within the scriptures. When you go into the book of Isaiah, I believe it's in the 30th chapter, it talks about how gross darkness has covered the whole earth. Now, and really a rudimentary part of that darkness is the love of money. Okay, but we're not dealing with gold, silver, cow, okay, sheep. Okay, we're dealing with reserve notes, whether it be Federal Reserve notes, whether it be Bank of England notes, or whether it be Euro notes. These are all notes that are supposed to represent a certain amount of gold when you read how these currencies were incepted. Okay, but now you can deal with just those pieces of paper which are promised to pay gold and then get out more debt. Okay, which is a funny thing. So you're in a perpetual cycle of debt, and you got these people that they are all they're about is paying off that debt. So in other words, you got slaves, man. Okay, slaves are consistently, okay, renewing themselves and being your slaves. You take out a mortgage. What do? You're taking out a certain amount of money. You're promising to pay back within a certain amount of years. You have taken out a certain amount of your life, and you've given it to whoever owns that debt. Okay, that being the elite banking families and so on and so forth. Okay, you buy a car, you're doing the same thing. You're gonna pay the car off in 5 years. Well, you're basically saying you're gonna work. You ain't gonna work 5 years to save up and then pay the car. No, that's not how the society works. You're gonna buy the car and you're gonna be a slave to paying that car back off, regardless of if the car breaks down or whatever. Okay, so it goes on to it and says the current situation for many countries within the EU has been labelled as bleak, as they remain in huge debt. And I thought that was a ridiculous statement because, well, they're gonna be in debt. If they're dealing in euros, well, that country's got debt. If they're dealing with dollars, well, guess what? That country's got debt. And if they're dealing with gold and silver, well, actually now they got actual substance, tangible goods. Okay, that's why a barter system doesn't, really a barter system doesn't really have any debt unless you say, okay, let me borrow a certain amount of gold from you, okay, and I'm gonna pay that gold back in a certain amount of time, okay. And you pay that back because someone else is going to give you some gold. Not someone else is going to give you some more printed out notes which represent a certain amount of debt. Okay? But like I said, that debt is necessary for you to be a slave to the elite banking families. Okay? So when that RFID chip is fully implemented, for you then to be able to live in your house, for you then to be able to access food, water, and so on and so forth, you're going to have to carry on being in the perpetual state of being in debt. Okay? All right, whatever currency they issue out, okay, whether it be SQRs or whatever, you don't have to be in a perpetual state of being in that debt. In other words, being a slave to the elite banking families. And I believe there's a scripture within the script. I believe there's a scripture within the Bible that goes into the fact that if you have a certain amount of debt, okay, then you are a slave to the person that you're going to be paying that debt back off of. Okay, so it says, Mr. I'm gonna call him Stiglitz, okay, Stiglitz, all right, said in a meeting titled "Fixing Europe's Disunion," okay, and that reminds me of that scripture in Daniel where it talks about how you're gonna have parts that is gonna be strong and parts that's gonna be weak, man, okay. And it says the disunion was not created against a backdrop of institutions which could support it. And as a result, he said it's failing. Okay, so he's going to get into it now. So he says, and he said in Europe, they have got things working in many ways better, but Europe as a whole, particularly since the global financial crisis, right, the eurozone is in particular has been near stagnation. Okay, so when you're talking about how 2008 brought a lot of loss of jobs and so on and so forth, and a lot of banks went out of play, you got this delusion, right, that they're pushing forth out there saying, we bounce back, this, that, and the third. What are you saying here? Really, that hasn't been the case, and that's what we've been saying here in this truth, man. Okay, the brothers that are awoke to what's going on out here. We're just saying, look. You had a hiccup within the system, that being 2008, okay, and there wasn't a hiccup, it was a test run, because they're going to bring forth that destruction of that financial system, and that's necessary for them to bring forth the chip. And we know the chip is a very important part of this financial system because that's spoken about within the book of Revelations. Okay, so it says here, the euro rather more is part of the reason why the eurozone is not doing well. Okay, and also too, it's good to remember that there's a sentiment that's being pushed forth out there, whether financially or militarily, there's a sentiment being pushed forth out there, okay, against Europe right now. Okay, so that also brings to mind the scripture where it talks about how these different nations are going to turn against the beast, because you had an article only a couple of days ago talking about how Europe thought it was a statement of war, a declaration of war, okay, when they had it to where Trump made a statement about how the Europe's military, this, that, and the third, I forget the ins and outs of it, okay, but now you got a segment where these two houses are, which is the same house, is divided up against itself, and we know from the scriptures, if it be so, that they ain't gonna stand, because here it is, America wants to go to war with Russia, okay, you got also the other countries within Europe that America wants to go to war with Russia, that are being targeted as being weak, this, that, and third, that being their economy. So you got these two people that, these three entities that are supposed to be of the same family, or all coherent, and they're all coming forth with different ideas, man. Okay, but see, what's going to be pushed forth is what's written within the scriptures. In that, you're going to have it to where these countries like Germany and certainly Russia is going to be in there. They're all going to turn against America. But we know America really wants to go to war with Russia. Okay, but they're expecting Germany to go out there with war to Russia. Okay, but that's why the scripture says, "Them that are at peace, them that are at peace with thee have deceived thee." Okay, them that are that confederacy. Okay, so it says it is not only part of the reason, but it's not the only part of the reason, but it is part of the reason. Okay, it says when you have a single currency, it doesn't have the flexibility to enable weaker countries like Greece, Italy, Spain to adjust, and the result of this is real. Okay, real problems. Okay, and it goes on. It says depressions, deep recessions, right, where GDP today in Greece is more than 20% below where it is now, where it was before the crisis. Okay, so they're basically going to show you that things got a hell of a lot worse for the people out there in Greece, man. Okay, and that's coming out there to them different countries within Europe. Okay, and with this stagnating European economy, well, guess what? They ain't gonna be buying stuff from China. Okay, and then you got the stagnating Chinese economy. Okay, so this whole thing, all of these different economies ultimately are all tied into one thing. Okay, into one goal. Okay, which is a complete collapse, man. Okay, it says, and that will shape the reaction. All right, and it says it is worse than the Great Depression in almost all these countries, and that will shape the reactions of the politicians and to the European Union. Okay, he says Mr. Stiglitz, all right, insists that there was a lack of understanding in the member states when they signed up for the euro, since they did not realize they would be giving up economic sovereignty to some degree. Okay, so that goes into something, something else. You can, read about that. And he said, they feel in some ways betrayed by their leaders. Also, so pretty much it goes on, but you can see the situation that was happening out there. And I believe this is just the Greek banks, okay, and they were all dealing with the euro, okay, all right, and that came out there to Greece, and that's supposed to be like a first world country. You've seen people line up to get their money and so on and so forth, okay, and they put the picture out there of the Great Depression out there in Chicago, and you're seeing the same thing coming back full circle. Okay, so what he's basically saying is, look, all of this that you're seeing here, okay, it's gonna come back full circle. Okay, so that's the future of your European economy. Okay, and therefore the Chinese economy, all of these different economies, they're gonna have the same grave finish. So with that, I say, hopefully that was a verification, and all praise unto Yahweh, Shemi outside, double honors to the apostles of GMS. Also, brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.